So let's begin. Good morning, everybody. Yep, it's still morning. My name is Chris Korleski, and I am very pleased and proud to be the director of what's known as the Great Lakes National Program Office with US EPA Region 5 in Chicago. And our mission in Glenpoe, as we call it, is to oversee the restoration and protection of the Great Lakes in 10 words or less. We are here today to celebrate a huge accomplishment in the achievement of that mission, a huge accomplishment. And as you probably know, and our other speakers are going to get in a little more detail, we're here celebrating the delisting of the first area of concern in the state of Ohio. And I think that deserves a round of applause. I'm just to make a few quick comments. First, to get this done has taken about 30 years. And some of the people that you're going to hear from today have been here from the beginning. But just reflect on that for a moment. 30 years of concerted effort. It took money, it took partnership from everybody, from folks here in Ashtabula to US EPA to the state of Ohio, which did an incredible job working on this project. We're going to talk about that later, and we have Governor Dewine. From the federal government, we have Janet McCabe here that provided a lot of federal dollars, but there was also a lot of industry money that went into this and local money. It took everybody. And just real quickly, think about this. Among other things, the cleanup resulted in 14,000 pounds of PCBs taken out of that river. PCBs are carcinogens. Now, I don't know what 14,000 pounds of PCBs look like, but that's a lot. And that's just a small component of the work that was done here. Depending on which engineer you talk to, there were 600 to 700,000 cubic yards of contaminated sediment dredged out of this river over that period of time. That's a big job and a lot of work. But I'm not going to tell you about the whole project. We could spend all day telling you nothing about the details of the project. We're going to get started on the program. And first, I'm very pleased to introduce the Ashtabula City Manager to welcome you on behalf of the City of Ashtabula, Mr. Jim Timonier. Jim, come on up.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out to the City of Ashtabula and our wonderful Ashtabula River. I was just speaking to Fred Leitert here, and he informed me it's actually been 33 years this project has been going on. So as a person born and raised in Ashtabula, I was 11 when this started. My grandfather was on City Council for 26 years, and I know he was also intimately involved with this project, and I'm sure he's looking down on us today and very happy that we are here delisting the river. So for more than 30 years, a dedicated team of federal, state, and local agencies, along with industrial partners and many individual contributors, diligently worked to clean our river and restore its natural habitat. We have created a regional tourist destination while maintaining an industrial presence with our commercial deepwater port, both of which are extremely important to our local economy. Millions of dollars, thousands of hours, and over 30 years of work have made today a reality. I am honored to have you here in our city, and I cannot express to you enough, to those who worked so hard to delist our river, how thankful we are for your dedication and support. Please enjoy this celebration of your hard work and enjoy the rest of your day here in our city. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure for all of us to be here today. Well, next, I will just tell you very briefly that this project has been incredibly important to US EPA. I can tell you that as the Glenpoe program director, I have been laser focused on this for the 10 years that I've been there, as have a number of other people. But it's not just the Chicago office that's been interested in this. This project has generated great interest in our headquarters as well. And I am delighted to tell you that we have here this morning Janet McCabe, who is the 16th Deputy Administrator to US EPA. Took that job, I believe, in April, just in April. But if you're in the environmental business, you know that Janet has been around for a good while. She is rejoining US EPA under this administration, and we're very pleased to have her back. And when she wasn't working at EPA prior, she was also being a professor at Indiana University. She was running an institute devoted to environmental resilience out of the University of Indiana, or Indiana University, I should say. And also has worked in numerous environmental fields, including state environmental resource agencies and also children's protection agencies. So the fact that Janet is here today is an indication of US EPA's considerable support for this project. And Janet, please come up.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thanks to all of you for coming today. This feels like a party. I don't know. Do you feel like a party or a reunion, like a college reunion? Because a lot of you have worked together for 30 years or at least decades on this, and it's really fun to see people seeing each other again after so long. I'm honored to be here with the governor, who I'm going to get to introduce, which is a thrill for me. This is my first live event for EPA. I don't know about you guys. It's the first live event that the EPA Region 5 office has done since the beginning of the pandemic. So I can think of no better one to do than one that is such a big deal as this one. We're excited to be back on the road, maybe a little bit rusty at the actual not dealing with people over Zoom. But I'll take it, you know, I'll work my way back into it. So, and you all know this better than I do, right? But I'm going to say some of these things because I think it's important for us to hear them and to remember them and to pass them on to people. So more than 30 years ago, in the mid-'80s, somebody was saying they were 11. My daughter's 33, so I can sort of measure it that way. She was born in '88. The United States and Canada recognized the Ashtabula River as one of 43 areas of concern. These are the most environmentally degraded places in the Great Lakes. So now, after decades and decades of hard work, tens of millions of dollars, public and private money invested, we are taking Ashtabula River off of that list. And it's the first one in Ohio, and I am so proud. This decades-long achievement required partnership at every level, federal, state, and local, as well as the private sector. We would not be celebrating this delisting today if it weren't for that. And isn't that the truth with so many things that we accomplish together in our communities? I live in Indianapolis now. I lived there since the early 90s, so I consider myself a Midwesterner. Even though I'm not on a lakeshore, I relate to the Great Lakes. They are just hugely important to us. They're a huge economic driver, but they're also in our spirit, right? In our hearts and our souls. And we got to do a little boat trip down the river, and it's just lined with people who live right here and have their boats right here. And you know how much it means to them to be able to hop into their boat and go out and spend the day, and it feeds their souls. We have a proud industrial heritage here in the Midwest, but unfortunately, a lot of that has come with a legacy of pollution that has taken us a long time to figure out that we need to do something about and clean it up. So this river in particular faced a host of issues that affected the food web, caused tumors and deformities in fish and other river life, made the fish uneatable for humans, dangerous for humans. These were big challenges that we all wanted to tackle together. So I'll throw a few statistics out there, and I hope I get them right. Somebody will correct me if I haven't. $67.5 million, more than that, was used to fund the cleanup and restoration projects, some of which you can see right here. Chris mentioned the thousands, hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of sediment. I'm told that if you had 350 football fields and you spread that sediment a foot thick, a foot deep, that's about the area that we're talking about here in terms of sediment. That is a lot of sediment. And 14,000 pounds of PCBs. PCBs we talk about in terms of parts per million, parts per billion, right? This is tons of PCBs, hugely important. Another great thing, not just getting the toxics out of the river, but restoring the habitat so that herons and ducks and geese are now over there because they're fish there and they're little critters that live there, and that wouldn't be there but for this. So We started working those many years ago, worked with the Ashtabula River Partnership that brought together so many organizations and community leaders and businesses, which, again, I just want to emphasize, and I don't know if any of the representatives of those businesses are here in the audience, but if they are, thank you for standing up and putting your effort and your commitment into this environment and working with everybody to help clean it up. The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative helped us get all this across the finish line, and Governor Dewine's leadership in the Senate and as governor has been absolutely essential to getting people to pay attention to this and getting legislation and then getting that legislation funded in order to do all this. Projects like this do much more than just restore the environment. They really help revitalize communities that depend on these resources and communities that often feel like they're left behind and ignored. And they're struggling with this legacy of pollution that is bigger than any one person to try to fix. We know that for every dollar invested in cleaning up the Great Lakes, that generates more than $3 in economic activity. I think for anybody's measure, that is a good deal, right? And we need to celebrate that. So this is the first AOC to be delisted in Ohio. It's only the 6th U.S. area to be delisted. We've got 3 more or 4 more in Ohio? 3 more. And I understand that work is well underway on that. So we just need to celebrate this restoration of such an important economic, recreational, environmental, and I honestly would say spiritual asset and wonder for this part of the country. So speaking on behalf of my new boss, EPA Administrator Regan, who's traveling in the West Coast today, let me emphasize that at EPA, we will continue our mission to protect and restore the Great Lakes. And having somebody like me there from Indiana, you bet that's going to happen, right? We're going to keep cleaning up these AOCs. We're going to keep working on nutrient pollution and harmful algal blooms. We're going to keep those carp out of the Great Lakes and the mussels where they belong. And restore the natural habitat so that it will keep our shorelines resistant. No more cottages falling into Lake Michigan, please. I also pledge that we will continue to be an engaged and cooperative partner all across the state of Ohio and the Great Lakes region as we have done here. I want to draw attention to a couple of people. I wish I could meet all of you and hear all your stories. And I know it's dangerous to single out a few people to mention, but I just want to mention them because, as I understand, their involvement in this has been just extraordinary. And I think they're all here today. And that is Scott Sanowski, Amy Pelka, and Mary Beth Giancarlo. So I think they deserve applause and appreciation from us. So I've talked long enough. It's now my honor to introduce Governor Mike Dewine. You guys all know him better than I do, and you get to vote for him. I don't get to vote for him. He's been a staunch advocate for water quality his entire career. And soon after becoming governor, he launched the H2 Ohio initiative. Need to think about something for Indiana that starts with I there, which focuses on improving Lake Erie's water quality and improving water infrastructure in disadvantaged communities. And I heard him just a minute ago talking about how much he loves wetlands and building wetlands, and they're so important. He was in the Senate for many years, chaired the Great Lakes Task Force, where he and others worked on a number of initiatives to protect the Great Lakes, and had a direct role in eliminating the contaminants here in the Ashtabula River. When he was senator, he was a lead sponsor on the Great Lakes Legacy Act, which I've heard everybody talk about today, provided a federal share of funding for the $57 million Legacy Act to help Ohio and local communities remove contaminated sediments here and restore the fish habitat. So thank you all very much again for coming. I hope you've seen some people you haven't seen in a while in a spirit of celebration, and I'll turn it over to Governor Dewine.
Well, Administrator McCabe, thank you for coming. We're delighted to have you here and take a little boat ride today together. It was great. This is a absolutely fabulous day for Ashtabula, and it's also a great day for the state of Ohio. If you look at the assets and the great things that we have in Ohio, any list, you have to start with Lake Erie. And what's been accomplished here in Ashtabula, I think, is an example of what we can accomplish other places, not just in Ohio, but frankly, really, really across this country. And it truly does take a lot of different people to do this. It takes federal government, it takes state, it takes local, but also takes the private sector. There's a lot of private money in this as well. So I think, I want to salute all the leaders in the Ashtabula community. Thank you for your dedication to this. You recognize as well as anybody or more what this means to Ashtabula, what it really means to the state of Ohio. A little history. The administrator talked about 1987 when the river was declared a Great Lakes Area of Concern. Fast forward to 2002. I was in my second term in the United States Senate. I was approached in 2002 by a congressman from Michigan, Vern Ehlers, a Republican from the west side of Michigan, and a fellow co-chair of the Great Lakes Task Force. He told me he'd begun talking with the Council of Great Lakes Industries and environmental groups and others about how to make progress on cleanup of the areas of concern so that waterways could be removed from the list. And we talked about that, and that resulted in the Great Lakes Legacy Act, a bill that Senator Carl Levin from Michigan and I introduced in the Senate that we were able to get passed. The bill authorized the U.S. EPA to partner, and I like the term because it was very essential in this bill, a partnership, a true partnership, and authorized EPA to partner with local communities to clean up these sites where there was lingering contamination in the river sediment. We then, of course, had to get, the administrator and I were joking about this, everybody thinks you pass a bill and you're done, but then you got to get the money, and you got to keep feeding the money in. And so it helped that I was on the right committees to do that, Appropriations Committee, and we continue to do that. Here we are. 15 years ago, I was part of a boat tour of the harbor with Fred and Ron and others, and lots happened in 15 years. We looked at the problems, we talked about the problems, and that tour 15 years ago, it's hard to believe, was shortly after we had passed in Congress and President George W. Bush had signed the Great Lakes Legacy Act. At that time, look, it was a river that people didn't want to really be on. They had to worry about eating the fish if there were fish there. So not really a great time. And these things do take a while. And I'm always kind of the most impatient guy in the room. But this has gone very, very, very well. A project, I think, was the largest at the time. And it was important. Ashtabula was really picked. We pushed it, of course. But it was manageable. It was doable. It could get done. So it made sense. That was our argument anyway. It made sense to start with Ashtabula. And that's what's happened. The project at the time, $57 million, we thought. First project that included contributions from industrial partners. And again, that is very, very significant. The Legacy Act really is a great example of the good that can come from the combined investment of money from industrial partners, federal partners, and the state. Additional dredging by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We thank them for that. Habitat work by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And other Great Lakes Restoration Initiative projects all contributed to the cleanup and to get us where we are today. I can't say enough about the dedicated people at the Army Corps, the Fish and Wildlife Service, EPA, nonprofit organizations, members of the community who really pushed through this project. The end result are impressive. This data is a couple years old. I think it's probably a lot better even now, but 2018 economic assessment by the Great Lakes Commission, the Council of Great Lakes Industries, concluded the number of recreational boat registrations in Ashtabula County increased by 42% between 2008 and 2017, while the number of rental boat registrations increased 28% during the same period of time. As the waterways and habitats have grown cleaner, better, Ashtabula has also welcomed a number of new businesses. Chamber may have better data than I do, but at least 27 new businesses in downtown Ashtabula. Lastly, there's been an increase in tourism in the county. A lot more tourists coming in, and that makes a big, big difference for the economy. Achieving this milestone for the Ashtabula River has taken a lot of time, not been easy, but thanks to the hard work and dedication of so many people, we have made it. I want to also thank the men and women who served on the Ashtabula AOC Advisory Committee. Thank you for that great work. A strong partnership developed between the Advisory Committee and the staff at Ohio EPA, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Ohio Lake Erie Commission, U.S. EPA, U.S. Army Corps, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Again, it took a lot of people to get here today. The administrator talked about another project that we started a few years ago after I became governor, and that's what we call H2 Ohio. And it is progressing as well. It is also a long-term project. We've said, look, it's a 10-year project, at least initially, but we're into it. We are building wetlands, and that makes a difference. We've got a number of farmers engaged in this program over in the western part of Ohio, and it's going to make a huge, huge difference. So, crown jewel of Ohio is this lake, and the rivers that flow into it. So this is a happy day, and it's a day that I look forward to. When we passed the bill, we didn't know how long it would take. We didn't know actually whether we'd ever get it done. We didn't know whether that money would end up going to Ohio, but it has all worked out very well, and I just want to thank everyone who's played a part in this. We have more work to do, but let's celebrate today's victory. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I can't tell you how much we all appreciate you being here. The governor and the deputy administrator spoke a lot about partnership, and I'd like to invite one of those key partners up to the stage. We have with us undoubtedly the best dressed attendee here today. The Army Corps always wins that award. I'd like to invite Major Lyle Milliman up to say a few words. Lyle, as I've come to know him now, is the deputy commander of the Buffalo District of the Army Corps of Engineers, who played a humongous role in this project. So Lyle, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Governor Dewine, distinguished guests, partners, members of industry, and especially I'd like to thank two members that were critical to this project from on behalf of the Corps of Engineers, the Buffalo District, and Brian Hettenberg. Amy and Scott, you were mentioned before, but without your personal efforts here on this project over the last 20 years, this today wouldn't be possible. So thank you, and your efforts are recognized. It's an honor to be a part of the USACE team and the federal family responsible for planning, designing, constructing important projects that ultimately led to the cleanup of the Ashtabula River and today's delisting of the Ashtabula area of concern. Today is the culmination of a lot of hard work accomplished by the EPA, the state of Ohio, the Corps of Engineers, and along with many other partners from local, state, and federal government. I can't think of a greater privilege than being here to celebrate all of the work done in the Ashtabula area of concern, and knowing this will enable future generations to benefit from and enjoy a healthier Lake Erie. Several projects prioritized under Great Lakes Legacy Act and funded through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative have turned back time on generations of environmental damage. The Corps of Engineers has a long and historic role of providing engineering solutions for our nation's toughest challenges dating back to the beginning of our nation. Here at Ashtabula, the Corps of Engineers team has provided technical analysis, sediment sampling, technical support, and environmental dredging that has led to improved sediment quality in the harbor. As you can see being implemented today, the next chapter here in Ashtabula is already underway with our Section 204 project, beneficially using dredged material to create a 17-acre submerged aquatic habitat. This will create a rare spawning and nesting habitat and restore the utility of freshwater wetlands and the filtering tributary water sources entering Lake Erie. Whether it's managing our nation's waterways, reducing risk from disasters, or partnering with other federal agencies like the EPA, as America's engineers, everything we build and everything we do is about delivering results to meet the needs of the people of this nation. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for your continued support. Building strong.
Major, thank you very much. And I have got to get a jacket like that. I know, look at...
Not on a day like today.
The last speaker we're going to bring up before we close, I'm not going to say a whole lot about, except that I'm so pleased and honored to invite someone who has been here from literally the first days of this cleanup, before there was a cleanup, before there were thoughts on about how to clean this up. Someone who has lived this for the last, as I understand now, 33 years of their life, if not before. So can we please have a big round of applause for Mr. Fred Leitert as he comes up to the podium, please.
Well, I do have a lot of fond memories. One of them is you've heard about the partnership that was formed. First, the state of Ohio formed the RAP, the Remedial Action Plan Advisory Council. A fellow that I got to know from the US EPA, Rick Nagel, came to one of our meetings and recommended and gave us thoughts about forming a partnership, which came about 6 months later. I have heard from colleagues at the Buffalo District Office of the Corps and the US EPA that has now been a model, the formation of the partnership. We've talked about the cleanup of the river, but there's something else. The reason a lot of the boats have returned here that had left is because we had some high levels of sediment, and they were beneath the water, but people didn't know they were there and, injured their boat. A lot of people went to Geneva. When this was all complete, Keister Marine, just as an example, put a channel in and added a bunch of docks. The last couple of summers, you look and it's full. This summer, they extended that channel further out. This yacht club that I've been a member of since 1998 is just about full. So when we talk about the economic impact, a number of boaters aren't local. There's a number of trailer parks down here where they stay and, support all this. And there's a dock tax that the city is benefiting from with all these additional boats. One other thing, occasionally you would see somebody here on the lower river kayaking. Now kayaking is normal. Harbor Yak put a little facility in, and most recently transferred to what was the Coast Guard former building. And the number of yaks you see on this river has really gone up. So people are really enjoying the river. Not only the birds are enjoying it, but people are enjoying it. I just want to also say some things about people who, when they were working here, got so involved in this community. Scott Sanowski is an example, US EPA. Scott not only was very involved in the dredging, but he took a lot of pictures, and then he started going to elementary schools to make a presentation. Scott, are you with me? At the end of a presentation, Scott asked any questions. A little boy says, "How tall are you?" Fond memories. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing this great celebration. And thank all of you who have put so much time into making all this happen. Thank you, thank you. I also want to thank Governor Dewine for what he did on GLLA. You've heard all that. And Ron Keister, who chairs the local Ashtabula City Port Authority, they became the local non-federal sponsor, which we absolutely had to have before we could move forward. That was a major, major accomplishment. Thank you all.
Thank you, Fred. Before we close, I just want to identify just a few more people. We're here celebrating a very large delisting of a very large area, and that's the headline story. But I really want to thank, where are Lynn Garrity and Melanie Barbas and Mary Beth Giancarlo? Can you just pop up very quickly? So round of applause. And if you're wondering, well, what exactly did they do? So we're all here having fun on a beautiful day. They actually had to write the report, the technical report that led to this delisting. And that was a lot of work, let me tell you. And then lastly, I really want to thank Eileen Deemer and Taylor Gillespie from EPA's press corps for setting this up and taking the lead on getting this done. Can we have a round of applause for them, please? So there have been so many thank yous today. I'm not going to go through all those again, but just a few closing points. My motto as the director of GLNPO, and we've heard versions of it today, is, if you clean it, they will come. And I think that is perfectly exemplified here, and we're seeing it perfectly exemplified across the Great Lakes at a number of AOCs and other places. We've got a long road to go, but we're going to get there. The second thing is, just to emphasize again, the partnership. And then lastly, I just want to acknowledge our media friends who are here today and thank them for coming out. There's a lot of things to be covered, and coverage of environmental issues, sometimes it can be spotty. You don't always get the coverage that you think you might get. I really want to thank you for being here and trying to help us tell this great story about what we're all doing in the state of Ohio to restore the environment. So just one last final thank you to all of you and all your agencies and all your organizations for everything that everyone has done. It's been a great day. I'm going to celebrate all day long. I hope you do too. And thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to your continued work